Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name is Carl King and today we're going to be looking at a new game that's going to crowdfunding, Kickstarter I believe, mid-August 2025, so not too far away now, in the next couple of weeks. It's from IS Lava Games and it's Airport Empire. Now currently it is a 1 to 2 player game. I've played the solo mode in this, so I've given that a try. And basically I've been sent this as a review stroke prototype copy to have a look at what it is about, show you the components and then give you a brief rundown hopefully of how the game plays, certainly as a solo player. The 2-player game won't play very much different from what I believe reading the rules and as say playing solo. They're both going to be fairly similar because you're playing your own thing, as it were. You're trying to build your airport and connect the world, as it says on the box. So how do you play the game? Well, you start off with a small board for your airport, and then you build out buildings onto that piece. Once that is completed, you will add another piece, so your airport will grow in size, and you will need to fill out 4 of these ever increasing sized boards with spaces increasing on those boards for you to put down things like emergency stations for fire, police, hospitals, buildings for your passengers, buildings for your staff. So you can purchase these buildings. The way that you purchase the buildings is from the money that you gain from planes landing on your airport runways. And each time you build up a new section, you will take a plane relevant to that particular section. So each time the planes are going to bring in more money, but they will only land when your plane is sort of rolled up by 2 dice. You add those numbers together on the 2d6, it will show a set number of planes, and if your plane matches one of those planes within that group for that rolled up number, that plane is deemed to have landed at your airport. And just as in real life the companies when they land at airports, they will need to pay fees. They will pay you a fee for landing at your airport. You will get that money and then you will use that to build up your buildings. You can also buy bonus cards which will help you throughout the game, or could potentially help you out throughout the game. There are events, so at the start of every turn there will be an event card. You will do that or do what it says on that event card, if anything. Sometimes it just says it's a perfect, beautiful day, no event takes place, so nothing bad or nothing good happens to either player. But if there is anything on the event card, then that affects potentially both players. There are some cards that you can buy on the bonus card section. They are all drawn at random, so you'll pay your money based on the level of your current airport status, and you will then keep those cards to use at a later date. And sometimes you can get cards that says you can ignore the effects of a event card. So we'll show you the rule book and a few more rules as we go along through this sort of unboxing and little video review. I've also done written reviews which will shortly be up on both Zartu and Everything Board Games review sites. So without any more sort of waffling about, we'll get into the box. I won't show you the back because the back of the box isn't sort of complete artwork yet, so it is still as I say, a prototype. The game is still being developed. The solo mode is still being worked on, but I've played it and for me it works fine. And at the end of the review video, I'll sort of give my reviews on how I think the game is and what potentially I'd like to see going forward. So let's open the box. So we have a rule book. So we've got the watch on YouTube QR code. So once you get the game eventually, this will be in the book and you'll have some official videos. There are a few up there already alongside this, which will give you a flavour of how the game plays and a more in-depth look at some of the components. So here you can see a fully operational airport. So it's in 4 pieces. So you've got a small piece here which is in this corner, you will add this piece which comes in here, this third piece comes in here, and this larger piece comes at the bottom, so they sort of all interlock. And how that happens and works is you've got 2 spaces for buildings on the smaller piece. Once you've purchased those and you can't put any more, you will take the next piece that's got 3 spaces, so you'll put 3 new buildings or complexes on this particular board. Then you'll go to the next which has 4, and the last one has 8. So you can potentially build up to you know, sort of a fully functional sort of international hub airport that will service planes like super jumbo size. So you start off with your sort of prop planes and your sort of single wing planes on your smaller airport, and as your airport grows you're allowed to land bigger planes, and those bigger planes will give you more money. You don't buy the planes. As soon as you've purchased enough buildings and you're ready to upgrade, you get to choose your next plane from those available. So if you're the first player to finish your first section, you will get the pick of the planes, and then the other player will have to take what plane is left. There may well be more planes brought out, but in this particular thing I believe there was only sort of 1 of 2 options, which isn't too bad because those are shown on the board that we'll show you as we go through the box and show you the components. You'll see what I mean by rolling up the dice, adding those together, and it will then give you pictures of planes that will be landing on the airport. You've got another board where you put your cards, the buildings and the planes, and they're color coded, so the particular color codings will relate also to the size of the airport. So you're going across from sort of left to right on both the color coding of the buildings and also on the plane. So these colors are on the back of the pictures, and again we'll show you some of those as we go through. You get 6 destination cards each, and once you score certain points in the game you'll get to take one of those destination cards. 3 of them have bonuses for you, and 3 of them have sort of a detrimental effect for your opponent, and they are sort of playable 1-use thing for you, and also a 1-use detriment for or against your opponent. So you get to choose which of those destination cards you take at which point in the game that you are allowed to take one of those, bearing in mind that at the end of the turn you might want to take a destination card that has a bonus for you, because at the end of that turn you're going to get a specific amount of bonus that you already know that you're going to get, and some of these destination cards will allow you to increase the bonuses that you will get, and then add that to your tally board, which is your personal scoreboard, and then you transfer those numbers each turn onto the main scoreboard. Your tally scorecard and the main scorecard, the numbers can go up and down depending on which buildings you buy, and also any penalties that you may gain stroke have played against you by your opponent, but also by the event cards that may come out. So you've got 2 lots of cubes, a couple of dice, and then some money tokens as well. There's not a huge amount of components in the game currently, but what they are for a prototype, they are very good quality. So if this is what I received as a backer and they were of this quality, I would be quite happy with how they have been produced currently. I don't know if there's any plans to have upgrades or anything through the campaign. You'll need to sort of log on to that if if you see this video in time, and if you've seen it afterwards. Obviously if the game has successfully funded, been delivered and or gone to retail, you may well obviously be able to find out exactly what happened, and also purchase it hopefully at a later date. Hopefully you've caught this video in time, and you'll be able to sign up and get to know when the campaign is launched, and if you like the look of this game, back it, and obviously get delivery in hopefully not too long from now. So again, like any other rule book, we've got the playing area. So this shows basically some sort of full working airports, but obviously at the start you're only going to have one of the smaller boards, which is this one. So this is how you will be set up initially. Both of you will have your first stage of your airport. You will have the board in the middle that shows all of the bonus cards and the planes and buildings. This is the board that has all the planes and numbers on from the dice. Both players will receive a secret objective. You will look at that, you will put that down face down, and on that reverse side is like a player aid that will help you sort of with your turn sequences and how you play the game, and the destination cards that you can take. You've got all of that information, but again we'll show you some of those. And then you've got your main scoreboard. So as you build up, you'll go through, as I say, you'll put your buildings onto your airports, and as you build those airports up, you will have more and more buildings, and you'll have more planes. You'll have up to 4 planes that can land each turn on your airport if you've fully loaded out your airport and it's completely maxed out in size. You've got this player board, as I said, which has got the planes on, so it shows you an example here of which planes, if a 10 is rolled, you will get multi-engine, turboprop, Eurojets and super jumbos. If either player or both players have any of those planes on their airports, they will receive the money shown on that particular plane token, and that's how you build up your money. So there is a bit of a sort of random and luck to it, because obviously you're rolling dice, and you might roll a couple of turns where you don't get any planes. So that is one suggestion that I've made, maybe to just have a little bit of an alter there, just in case, because at the start with only one plane, if you roll and that plane isn't on one of the sets of numbers that you roll, then you're not going to be generating money. So I've suggested something to the game designer about maybe sort of including something that would mitigate that, where you might be able to maybe lose some points, sort of give those points back, and maybe that allows you to land a plane. But as I say, I played through the solo thing. I didn't do that. I followed the rules, and it does ramp up during the game, and I ended up with quite a bit of money and being able to fully load out the whole airport by the end of the game. And I managed to also do the secret objective, which was good. So as I say, I've only played through the solo game once. I may give it another go before the game is sort of sent back, because as I say, this is a prototype, so it may well be being sent on to other reviewers. So we've got, as I say, your tally chart, which is your personal scoreboard, and each time you build a building, it will have a minus or a plus number, or sometimes 0, and you will move your score numbers up these tally charts, and at the end of every turn those tally chart numbers will be put onto the scoreboard. So every turn, if you're all on number 10 and you don't build anything the following turn, you're still on number 10, you will add a further 10 to each of these score tracks. You may well lose a couple of points, so one could go back down to 8, so instead of doing a 10, a 10 and a 10, you'll do a 10, an 8 and a 10 perhaps. So it is quite good. As I say, these things will go up and down depending on which buildings you want to buy and afford to purchase, because obviously you've got to sort of balance out, do I want to buy that building now, or do I wait and see if I can get some more money and buy a better one? And your opponent might come in and sort of say, well, if you don't want to take that on your turn, I'm going to buy that building, put it onto my airport, and you've lost that chance. So it's all about sort of choices. You've got, as I say, you've got bonus cards, and depending on the level of your airport, it will cost you an increasing level of money to purchase those bonus cards. So 500, 1,000, 2,500 and 5,000, depending on the size of the airport. And I think that's quite nice. Maybe the number might be a little high, but by the time you've got down to having all of the airport pieces put together, you will be generating quite a bit of money, because if you've got a super jumbo, you get $20,000 paid to you from the supply for a landing fee for that super jumbo landing at your airport. So potentially spending 5,000 of that 20,000 is not such a big deal, and also you'll still have potentially at least 15,000 left to buy another building, or maybe a combination of buildings, because you can also only put the buildings onto that level of your airport that matches the colour of the building. So you can't put one of the earlier buildings on from the first piece onto your last piece of your airport. They have to go colour coded to the actual piece of the airport that you're building. So there are more buildings available the more you go through the game, simply because there's more spaces to fill, but they do increase in price. But they do increase also with the bonuses that they give you for your tally card, and then obviously the more on your tally card, the more points you're going to put on the scorecard. And once somebody gets to 80 points on each of those score tracks, that signals the end of the game. We will run through what happens at that point a little bit later. So as you can see here, in a little bit sort of bigger pictures, these are the airport upgrades. So first, second, third and fourth, and here you can see these are the spaces where you will place your buildings, and here are some of the larger planes that will go that you can choose to go onto your landing strip. They just sit there to show that that is the plane that you've chosen, and every time that plane comes up as a rolled plane, you will get the money that is shown on there. So the fee for, as I say, the super jumbo, you can see here the landing fee is $20,000. So here we have all the destination cards, and you can only take those destination cards once your three score tracks have reached 5 points, 10, 20, 30, 50, and then the last one is when all of your score tracks are up to the 80 point mark, and that's when you get your last destination card, and at that point that triggers the end of the game. We've got some rules clarifications at the end of the rule book. You've got some buildings here, and they will tell you basically what those buildings do. You will see here that there is a cost, and that shows you how you will adjust your tracks on your tally board. So as you can see here, if you bought this, it would go +2 on the smileys, which is customer satisfaction, and then +1 and 0. So, and it's say some of these will also have some minus figures on. Some of the buildings are free, so you can take those and put them on, but obviously they won't have any bonuses on. So you, whilst it doesn't cost you any money to fill up those spaces and potentially then go to your next stage of the airport, they don't give you any bonuses onto your tally track, and they don't then put those numbers subsequently into the major scoreboard. So it will take you longer to actually build up your scores to start getting your destination cards in, because you're not gaining those points because you're taking free buildings. Although some of these free buildings will guard you against some of the events that come out. You might get some penalties unless you've got a security guard building, or a fire building, a police building, or a medical building. So you have to weigh those up as you're going along in the game. Also, you can only have one of these emergency buildings, which is what the security guard comes under. You can only have one of those on each section of airport. So where we have the 4 airport things here, you can only ever have one of each of those buildings on here. So you will potentially take one for each of those sections if you wish to, and if they're available, but you can't put more than one on any one of those sections. Once you've put one down, so if you buy the security guard thing for here for free, you can't put, say, a medical facility or a fire station or a police station on here as well, because you can only ever have one on each of these sections of your airport. We've got some more buildings here, and as I say, you will see here that obviously they're color coded as previously, so these will also be the buildings that are available for the different stages of your airport build. At the back here we've got the current solo option mode, which I played through and worked perfectly fine. I don't normally like solo modes that don't have a actual AI player, so where you're potentially sort of turning over cards and it says the AI opponent will do X or Y. This game doesn't have that, but this is one of the few games that I've played where it doesn't have that as an option as the solo mode, that I've actually enjoyed playing against it, because I played out a set number of goes to try and complete my airport and complete the objective before a set number of event cards came out, and I managed to luckily do that with 5 cards left on the pile. If those event cards had run out, then you lose the game, and the game or stroke the AI wins. But currently that is the solo mode, and for me that worked perfectly well. This is the box that the airports and one of the boards comes in, so we'll show you how that works. So here you will see the scorecard. So where these yellow numbers are, these are the points where your token needs to get to claim your first destination card. Then the 10s will be your second, the 20s will be your third, and so on. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's when you claim your 6th one, when all 3 of your markers have gone onto this board and have reached 80. If you've done that but you haven't done your secret objective, you still potentially will win the game. But if your opponent is also scoring quite heavily and is close behind you, if they have done their secret objective, currently the rules are that that person, because they've done their secret objective, because obviously whilst you're doing that you might not be getting as many points because you might be concentrating on other things. If you've done that and the other person hasn't, who's triggered the end game, that person loses 10 points off each of these tracks. You then add up the points, so they would be down to 210 points, but your opponent might have more points at that point and they will then win the game. So you've got to be careful when you trigger that game, thinking, are they within that sort of 30-point barrier when I trigger the end game, because I haven't done my objective. If both players have done the secret objective, then obviously the points will stay the same and the person who's triggered it will win the game. So here we have the airport pieces. So here is the smaller piece. The second piece fits into here like so. So you've got then 2 here and 3 spaces there. The third piece will come into here. So as you can see, that is building up quite nicely, and we'll just move this out of the way quickly. We'll bring that back in, and your last major piece, which is your hub airport, comes in and sits like so. So that is your fully completed airport down here like that. So you've got, as I say, 2 buildings, 3 buildings, then 4, and then 8. So you've got plenty of time to add your buildings in to score points. And don't forget, you're not just scoring points once the buildings are finished. You'll keep scoring whatever your tally points are at the end of every turn. As I say, they can go down, so you may still be scoring points, but you may score less points one turn than the previous turn because an event has taken some of those points away. Your opponent may have played a card that took some points away, and other things may happen depending on the events that come out you may also lose points depending on the size of your airport. There are some penalties that you will lose points depending on how big your airport is. So that's what your airport looks like. We'll bring these bits back in. So as you can see, you've got a couple of dice, and we've got some, at the minute, some blue and red cubes. Some of those will go on, 3 of those will go on the tally board, and 3 will go on the main scoreboard. This is the planes board. So as I was saying earlier, you will roll these dice and they will give you a number. So as I say, if that number was 10, you will look at the planes in number 10, and then there are 4 planes there. So the next turn it will be 8, so you will go to these 4 planes, and those are the planes that will score you the money for the landing fees that you will then add to your supply, and it will allow you to buy the buildings. So it goes from 2 to 12, and every turn some planes will come up more than once. Some of them are obviously on multiple of these sort of sections, but every section has got at least 4 planes on them. I think there's 4 planes on everything, and yeah, they're sort of randomized throughout there, but they're randomized in a way that they are randomized equally, because obviously you're going to be choosing a plane and your opponent will get the plane that is left. These are your destination cards. So as I say, there are 6 for each player. So you've got Europe, Asia, North America, South America, Africa and Australasia, and your opponent has the same. So on some of them you've got some positive effects for yourself, and on 3 of them there are negative effects for your opponent. So you will choose which of these to take when your numbers reach those yellow squares on with all 3 markers. You will get to take one of these. That's a sort of a one and done bonus stroke negative for your opponent, and that's a one and done card until you get the next one. So we've got some money chits here. So you've got sort of $10,000, $1,000 and 500s, and you get more than enough there to see you through the game. There aren't a huge amount of the the singles, but once you get to 10 you can then swap out for a 10 itself, put those ones back, and there's enough because there's only the 2 of you playing. This is the board where you will put your bonus cards, your event deck. This is where your buildings will sit. This is where the planes will sit. And obviously as you go through the game you will take buildings off here depending on the level of your airport and what you want to put down. The bonus cards that you can purchase will be face down here after being shuffled, and you will purchase those, take those, and then either use them straight away or keep them for use on a future turn. And at the start of every turn you turn over an event card and you work out what that is, good or bad, for both players. These are your tally charts. So as I say, you've got markers for each of these, and these will go up and down depending on buildings. Some buildings will give you positives, some buildings will give you zeros on some of them, and some will give you positives and some negatives on for some of the buildings. You've just got to weigh up which of those you want to purchase, because you may well be past a destination point on the scoreboard with 2 of your markers, and what it might do is you buy the next building which pushes you past that marker, but one of them will have to drop down but may still be passed on its track, and as long as at the end of the turn all 3 markers, as I say, have gone past the next destination point, you will take another card and you will be able to add that effect. So here are the top secret mission objectives. There are currently I think 7 in the game, so you get to randomly select one of these, and as I say, on the back it gives you a bit about the game, the turn sequence, the destination card, redemption stage, and then what the destination cards are. So they will show you that. We've got the card decks here. So we've got some I won't get all of these out. So you've got some event cards here. So as I say, some might just say it's a beautiful day, nothing happens. Some might say that you have to minus some of your tracks, and that affects both players. You can get some bonus cards, as I said to you earlier. Those bonus cards will negate some of the effects of those events, and you can play those at any point. So you will purchase those instead of purchasing buildings. So again, you've got to take that decision that you've got maybe a few hundred or a few $1,000s. Do I buy a building this turn, or do I risk buying a bonus card to see if I'm going to get something that might help me out during the game? Currently there are just these 8 planes, so 2 per player. So once one player takes the US jet, the other player is left with a Euro jet, and as you can see, they are color coded on the back. So these are the first 2 stages, and you will see there that they generate $500. These are the ones for the next stage. They generate $1,500 every time that plane is rolled and is landed on your airport. The next ones do 5,000, and the larger planes, one does 15, one does 20. So there is, when you get to that sort of later stage, the first 3 all do the same, but if you're the first one and you want to take the Super Jumbo, if that drops, then you're going to get $20,000, and the other plane, which your opponent can only get, is only going to get them 15,000 every time they have to get, or they claim, the landing fees that are charged for that plane landing at your airport. So getting that last plane is quite crucial. As you can see, these are your buildings. So we've got these score points down the bottom here, which you adjust on your tally track, and then at the end of the turn, every turn, those numbers are transferred to each of the score tracks. This is one of the one of the emergency buildings. That still costs you 2,000, but as you can see, it doesn't give you any bonuses, but it will prevent some of the event things happening against you if you've got that particular building. So again, you've got to sort of weigh up whether you want to sort of continue just getting some free buildings from time to time, and that will obviously cost you no money, but potentially won't gain you any sort of benefits in the point scoring charts. And then obviously we go up to some of the larger buildings, which cost 15,000 and 25,000, as well as a hospital that only costs you 2, but again doesn't give you any benefits, whereas these will give you a stack of points on some of these to build up your tally score and also onto your main scoreboard, which obviously you're trying to get up to 80 on all of those tracks. So that's it. At the minute it's got a nice little sort of handmade foam core insert. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to sort of end up, or whether there's going to be a sort of custom plastic molded one. It probably will be more likely a plastic molded one for ease of production and mass production. But yeah, so far, you know, everything fits in the box nicely. We've got all these nice, as I say, the card stock, as you can see here, is very nice and decent quality. The boards are made of a nice thick material as a prototype. All of the boards are made like that. Again, these cards are of a nice quality, and each of the airport stages are also made of a nice solid board, and obviously the boards are color coded on the backs so that you can also see which planes are for which stage. So everything is there for you. You know, I'm slightly colourblind with some colours, but I had no problems with the colours in this game. So if anybody does suffer like me with a bit of sort of things with blues and purples, greens and all those sorts of things, this game is absolutely fine. You can tell which is which. They're nicely done, and the boards and cards and everything else is all easily sort of pick outable by somebody like me who, as I say, suffers with a bit of colour blindness. So there we have it. That's a quick look through the game and the components. Now, as I say, currently this is only a 1 to 2 player game, but again, I've had a word with the designer and he's going to have a think about the fact of ramping this up to 4 players, because I do think that this is a game crying out for a 4-player version. He's worried about the table space, but for me this isn't as big a table hog as some of the games that I and my gaming group play. We play some that will completely fill a 6x4 table, and we don't have any issues with that either at a club or when we're meeting at our houses. And I do think that this would be an exceptional game with more planes, more buildings available, more event cards, and some extra bonus cards, although you could potentially get away with the same amount, because all you do is reshuffle them. If you're having the event card deck and it goes through that, you can just literally shuffle them and start again if nobody's reached the 80-point mark. As I say, you'll just need some different planes, or what you could do, and what I've suggested, is you do a deal where you literally do a deal for 2 of the games, and you put 2 of them together, and you've instantly got a 3 to 4 player game that you can play. None of it is sort of really based on the fact that putting 2 of the same game together would cause problems, because you'll have 4 planes for everybody, you'll have plenty of monies, you'll have, all you need is some different coloured cubes. You've got the dice, you still only will need to roll 1 set of dice per turn. Everyone's going to get the same colour coded sets of airport pieces, and the other set is exactly the same as that. The boards aren't colour coded in that respect, you know, like player colours in other games. So 2 of these boxes would quite easily make you a nice 4-player version of this game. The only thing for me is some of the bonus cards didn't work for the solo mode, because some of them say use this card against your opponent, and in the solo mode currently you don't have one. So all you need to do is ignore if any of those bonus cards come out, or you can just remove them, or you just have a separate deck, or you have a symbol on them that says these are the ones that you use for solo, so just like an S in the corner or something. And again, only you will be buying them as a solo player, so you won't need as many. Other than that, the solo mode for me worked a treat, and the game played really nicely. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes. If it stays exactly the same as this, I'd be quite happy with it, and also quite happy with getting a copy of this as it played. I'm going to be obviously sending this one back this week before I can get a 2-player game done, but I don't see too many differences from playing solo to playing 2-player, but I do think it would ramp up nicely, as I say, as a 3 or a 4-player, because you've got that jeopardy of not just watching what one of your opponents is doing, you're watching 2 or 3 other opponents. And also, when you've got these bonus cards that you can play against an opponent, if you've got more than one opponent, you potentially will need to pick the opponent that you want to use that card against on that particular round before they take their turn, because otherwise you're going to miss that, and you might stop them from gaining a lot of points, or if you miss that opportunity, they may gain a lot of points, gain some other cards which they can use against you, build up their airports quicker than you, take the plane you wanted, all those sorts of things. So these bonus cards, I think, would work even more so with more players, because at the minute all you can do is play it against 1 player. If you've got 3 or 4 players, then that jeopardy of picking who and when is really ramped up, and would make the game, for me, a lot better. But as I say, currently Airport Empire, I don't really find anything too much wrong with it. And yeah, as I say, components great, rule book absolutely fine, artwork, love the artwork, looks really nice, and yeah, if, as I say, if this is what I got, I'd be more than happy with this, and I'd be happy to play this solo and 2 or multiplayer. So for me, this is a winner. Check it out on Kickstarter. Check it out on their website if this is after the Kickstarter has gone and you've missed it and you've come across this or any other video. Check out the IS Lava Games website, and yeah, try and bag yourself a copy of Airport Empire. I think this is going to be a winner. I think hopefully this will fund well, and hopefully this will be played by a lot of people in the not too distant future. So until we do another one of these, it's bye for now.